Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our presentation from LiveTiles for the Galactic Collaboration Summit. This unique and special event, so quickly and expertly organized by our good friends from the Wiesbaden Collaboration Summit. So hats off to them. And it's been two fantastic days last week and this week of presentations, and such an exciting time in the Microsoft ecosystem, and particularly for MS Teams, which has been such an enormous support for many businesses and organizations during these challenging and testing times. But we want to focus today, myself and Lars, on coming out of crisis and into control, and particularly look at all the organizations that have been pivoting and rolling out at an enormous rate digital workplace solutions, particularly MS Teams. And now that we're entering into a period of more certainty and the sort of next normal, as it's being phrased, how do you really put practices in place that will give you great adoption and great governance? From my own experience as a head of communication, I'll also be talking about, what we've learned from this crisis. We'll be looking at the importance of remote employee communication. I mean, essentially, with all the heads of communication that we've been talking to throughout our customer community, it's needing to be in touch with employees no matter where they are. And that has been a really, really exciting challenge for us to support them on through many, many different means, such as the mobile first approach, and also our omnipresent streamlined approach to the digital workplace, which Lars will be presenting. And also Lars will be talking us through how to plan and roll out teams, particularly with that focus on adoption. And we'll be demoing that solution as well, and topping it off by sharing some great free resources with all of you, and as well as, of course, our wonderful prize, which is in line with the theme of the conference, which good luck to whoever wins that. So we talked about, the key learnings from a business communication perspective during COVID-19, and my own background is very much in crisis communication, both as head of communication with the International Red Cross and with the UN agency called ITU. And all of that we've been experiencing during the global pandemic, there's so many similarities. So we just wanted to share those with you from the beginning of the presentation, because we believe it sets a very good context, and there's a lot to be learned from crisis communications historically, and also from what we've experienced most recently with COVID-19. So to start off with, information is life. In any crisis situation, to have clear, consistent information is so important. Your audience expects that. They really thrive on good quality information, and they really need it. It's so important as well to be empathetic, to be listening, and to really go for that two-way flow of information, and information that is easy to find and easy to discover. I think that two-way flow in particular is important when we're talking about working from home. So we really need solutions that enable that, and the more intuitive and organic, the better. The second lesson to learn and learning to take note of is the power of people, the power of community. I really believe we're going to see a resurgence of community coming out of this pandemic. And it'll just re-emphasize the importance of engaging people, of including them, and of helping them to connect with each other and to connect with the skills and resources that they need, because this is truly what empowers communities. So again, this is at the fundamental bedrock of our digital workplace solutions that we need to bring forward into the future. And a third one is, recognizing that technology can, while it can be a source of many challenges and problems in society or the workplace in terms of, isolation or siloed behavior, whatever, it's very much part of the solution. And we're seeing now, from the CTOs right through to the heads of HR and CEO, that there are some amazing technologies to be leveraged to help with the well-being of employees and wellness in the workplace in general. And I think there's a far higher recognition now of the importance of this issue in the workplace, getting that balance right between people and technology, and using technology where appropriate, and particularly when people are working remotely or working from home, using technology to really bring them together in an organic and social way, as well as in a productivity focused way as well. And for all of this to happen, the adoption element of it is so critical, and that's really where we need to work on getting that grassroots adoption throughout organizations, and something that's built into the way we work at LiveTiles in terms of how we design all of our solutions. The fourth lesson learned is around, the opportunity. The saying goes, never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think that is it's so true. It's slightly tongue in cheek, but it's so true, because it really is an opportunity to learn in real time, in a real case scenario. It's a time to test and to innovate. It's a time to drive change. I read recently from the World Economic Forum that their predictions for digital transformation towards 2030, they've already taken 10 years of that prediction. They reckon it'll happen in a far more accelerated pace in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's what can happen during times of crisis, and it really is that moment. And I think this is something that we all share in terms of a common concern and desire, is to future-proof our organizations so that they can survive and thrive in the next normal, and in the digital economy as we move forward. And finally, talking about on a topic of key learnings, we cannot leave out the importance of data. We all understand the importance of data in our community, but data needs to be actionable. It needs to be understandable by those decision makers that need to act on it. And I think that's really quite often the challenge, is presenting data in a way that it can really facilitate data-driven decision making and provide those feedback loops for continuous improvement. So these are some of the key learnings coming out of COVID-19, and very much linked and rooted in historical learnings from crisis communication, and so relevant now in the working from home, next to normal and remote working, and this sort of blended way of working that we expect the world to be far more engaged in, where we'll need greater clarity, greater connection, and greater co-creation. That all-important aspect of how to ensure that no employee is left behind, that touches on everything from wellness in the workplace to the social and mental and physical well-being of our employees, to adoption and productivity and collaboration. And this is really a crucial challenge for all organizations, particularly I think in terms of the IT and communications departments, where they really need to ensure that inclusion of employees and engagement of employees is really at the basis of the employee experience, and that is a measurable outcome for your business or your organization. So just a few words on that. It's a very basic issue, but a really critical issue that's often overlooked, and that is the data on your people. Knowing who's who in your organization is absolutely critical if you are to grease the wheels of collaboration and productivity. It's impossible to talk about effective collaboration if we find it difficult to connect people, if our colleagues are unable to seek out the colleagues or the skills or the teams that they need to work with in order to drive their projects forward, then you're already sort of at a loss in terms of really paving the way for successful collaboration. So having systems in place, automated systems preferably, that will always have that data up to date, always have it easily discoverable, and can be supplemented and augmented with data on skills and locations and coordinates, etc., that really ease that collaboration. That is an essential piece that all organizations must get right. to talk about employee engagement and corporate comms, particularly, which, it's really at the top of the agenda now for many corporate communications departments. We wanted to just outline a number of the key areas that we think need to be taken into consideration, when we want to have our digital workplace platforms and solutions drive that collaboration and bring that amazing employee experience. So first of all, by prioritizing employee experience, you must bring to the fore all of the user experience knowledge and design that really aesthetically engages employees. Design matters, particularly for millennials, and now coming fast on the heels with Gen Z, which will be 30% of the workforce in the next 10 years. They expect that consumer level user experience, and that will already set your digital workplace up for success if you get that piece right. So that's an extraordinarily important part, that streamlined, singular experience that will drive the employee experience and really give them that amazing experience in the workplace. Reach users where they digitally reside. You got to know your platform ecosystem inside out and tailor it according both to the behavior of the users as well as the needs of the organization. Maybe you've got too many silos. Maybe you've got too many channels duplicating the same type of content or the same type of activity. So really understand that, analyze that ecosystem, and understand what are the type of interactions happening. Where is your town plaza? Where are your meeting rooms? Where is the social behavior happening? And optimize that information to really reach users with the information that's relevant to those different channels. And again, going back to the previous slide, extremely important to know who's in your crew, and to have that employee information at your fingertips in order to do this successfully. Using analytics to understand user behavior. It's often said if you can't measure it, it didn't happen. And it's so important nowadays for communications departments in particular. They have internal communications teams have the tools that have been the prevail of external communications for so long. So now you can really see what is working and what is not in your digital workplace, and where is that prime real estate that you can leverage. Where are the areas of your digital workplace that you really need to work on in terms of bringing more activity and more engagement. So have those analytic tools at your fingertips that are constantly helping you to improve that employee experience. I think the whole area of employee advocacy, which is a growing priority for many of our customers in LiveTiles, and very linked to that sort of brand strengthening and that brand integration, is becoming extremely important, and the role of the digital workplace is absolutely pivotal to that. So it's really important to empower your employees to have the right information at their fingertips, so that they can be sort of self-directed, and they can create content, and they can integrate all of their own productivity apps seamlessly, or the ones that that you're really favoring in your organization, whether it's Salesforce or Outlook or whatever it might be, that you really have these apps seamlessly integrated so that your employees have that strong sense of place and brand and don't feel like they're jumping into dozens of different brand related apps in order to get the job done. So that is something that brand will really help to drive that employee advocacy. So you need to have that ability when you're building your digital workplace. And finally, last but not least, as I say, promote the ability to socialize content. At LiveTiles, within our own company, we see this as a really important key indicator on how successful our own digital workplace and intelligent intranet is working. When we see employees coming together to create content intuitively and organically and really driving that grassroots storytelling within an organization, for me, that's the essence of community. And it really is an indicator that your digital workplace resonates with your community of employees, and that they are contributing to, evolving that experience and really buying into the digital workplace in a very intuitive and organic way. So I think that whole area of enabling employees to storytell, if you like, through sharing, commenting, creating content, etc., is extremely important. And it needs to be grassroots as possible. So you need to facilitate that. It's not a top-down instructive behavior. It never works if that's the way that an organization chooses to go about it. It's far better to enable employees to be their own storytellers and content creators, and to connect and create communities at work that allow them to do that. Just a screenshot from our own intranet in-house. In fact, this is our employee app, which we call LiveTiles Reach. And these are, again, spontaneous stories, visual stories that cropped up on our app, where colleagues started sharing photographs and different perspectives of their own working from home scenarios and their own workplaces at home. And that has evolved into pets and coffee makers and all sorts of different activities. So that's been really interesting to follow. And here on this screenshot, we have everybody from interns to C-level. So I mean, that's really the essence of it, and that's the essence of community. It's flat, it's inclusive, and it's dynamic, and it's personal, and it's a really, really important indication that your digital workplace has gone beyond the productivity only lens that we may have been looking at it in the past. So with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Lars, who'll introduce himself and talk you through, more practically speaking, how we can take those sort of lessons learned into the workplace today, particularly looking at MS Teams. So Lars, if you have control of the screen, all over to you.
Yeah, did you see that I switched my screen?
Yes, I have.
All right, thank you. There's a little bit of an echo, but I don't know what that is caused by, but can you hear that echo? Or
no, that's fine.
Okay, so thank you very much. And I actually loved that last screen you showed, Paul, because I remember that when the pictures you showed were actually people's home workspaces. So I had this whole thing around show the picture that you are from your home workspace, just like I'm standing at my home workspace now doing a video presentation. And thank you for taking the time to listen into this. And that was just a completely new aspect of a digital workplace, where employees are not using it for their work-related stuff, but to basically show this is how we get work done at home. And I got a little jealous about the Swiss guys because they had some really cool pictures of the mountains, and Denmark is rather flat. So, but it was good anyway. What I want to talk a little bit about is just a click down of what Paul said, because he touched a couple of really important things. The modern workforce is digital. The modern workforce is mobile. The modern workforce is not tied to an office desk anymore. Like, I'm not tied to an office desk anymore. And one of the things that has happened during the latest crisis is that a lot of people realize we got to do this overnight. So they put in MS Teams, Microsoft Teams, or something else, but the majority of corporations put in Microsoft Teams and bypassed all the rules and all the standard processes for putting in a new solution. So my talk today will be about, okay, so now you put in Teams, great, that went really fast. How do I then make sure that I get that into my standard operating procedures? How do I, after the fact, rein that in? We've actually done that with a few clients in the past, not driven by crisis, but just people playing around with Teams. So I want to talk a little bit about how to bring your Teams back into the fold in a proactive way that, as Paul said, that leverages and takes advantage of a good crisis. So just a few seconds on what Teams is all about. For those of you that are not using Teams today, there are like 3 words I want you to keep in mind. There's your rooms, the different meeting rooms you see here to the left. There are your tabs for various content pages, such as your intranet. And then there's your channels. Those are the different channels that you communicate with. So when I talk about meeting rooms, That's a Teams meeting room with documents and meeting and talking and chatting and everything else. When I talk about tabs, internet, that's pages. And when I talk about channels, those are the places where people communicate to each other on a more peer-to-peer basis, not as much as this top-down communication. So what we learned during the past 3-4 months is there's a bunch of things that you have to do right to use Teams as a strong communication vehicle. And the first thing is to make sure, like Paul said earlier, the right target. You got to know who your staff is. You got to know where they work. That data has to be accurate. In the past, I remember many times in the projects I've done, and I've done hundreds of digital workplace projects in my career. Is your AD clean? And people smile a little bit, sort of. So, making sure that you have the right people. The next thing is to make sure that you have the right rooms. The cleanup projects that we've done in the past, and excuse me for using that word, but that's actually the accurate word, showed out that everybody started making meeting rooms, small project rooms. They forgot they had it. They couldn't see it in the Teams client. They created a new replica of that. Their colleague created the same. And suddenly you had all these teams that were never used, but they just filled up the mess. So make sure you have the right rooms and the structure around how people find and provision their rooms are important. And rooms in this case is workspaces where you collaborate and talk and everything else. It could be a departmental room, it could be a project room, it could be a location room. Then you got to have omnipresence, because Teams cannot live standalone. Today you probably put in Teams and it lives standalone. And a lot of my clients are asking, how can I get the digital workplace and the internet into Teams? Or they ask, how can I get Teams into the digital workplace and internet that I have today? So omnipresence, i.e. making sure that you are where the users are, but you have the appropriate content only stored in one place, is really important. Then there are some team leads on number 4 here. Make sure that you have owners of those critical rooms that you create. Make sure that you have a room portal where you can find those critical rooms for all your staff. And then make sure you have lifecycle management. And I've just taken the liberty to add a little comment on what lifecycle management is, because that's rather critical right now. As you brought out Teams, everybody used Teams, and suddenly you have all these rooms. Lifecycle management is all about making sure that you have the right metadata as you provision rooms. Who owns it? Is it external sharing? Are they allowed to do external sharing? What's the start date, end date? What's the archiving process? And then, manage it during the life of the project, adding people, removing people, having a portal where you can find it, and then archiving it when that time comes, and make sure you don't archive a room because somebody might be on a maternity leave and don't respond to your email. So make sure that you have all these processes in place. Now, so how do I then take it and make it a single place of information when Teams is not just one of my communication channels? So I've had quite a lot of situations where people are having communications teams saying, we want to use Teams, but it doesn't look very nice. Just not like our intranet. So we'd actually like to use our intranet for this. We'd like to use Teams for this, etc., etc. So how do you make sure that now that you have put in Teams, that you align users to your Teams and that you give them use omnipresent across your digital workplace, your SharePoint, your Teams, maybe your Facebook for Works if somebody uses that, or your employee app if you've got a custom employee app, or you leveraging the LiveTiles app that we have. So the idea is here that you see, I will show you this live in a minute, but you see like your digital workplace, your SharePoint modern experience, you have a traditional intranet, intelligent intranet, and then we have some information here that's created by a group of people that's then being shared across your Teams client and again out in your mobile employee worker experience. So make sure you have the news only or the content only in one place, but it's present wherever you want to have it. The second thing is, how do I avoid having this problem of people creating Teams rooms in vain and just create them again and again because they can't find them? Well, the way to do that is to make sure that you have a portal where you can find all the relevant rooms and allow people to maybe make some of them as favorites. So for that, you need to deploy a Teams portal. That can be done within Teams, but what if half your users are working in your digital workplace and they don't know how to open Teams? Wouldn't it be great if they could have both SharePoint team sites and MS Teams rooms be all integrated into a single solution. So this collaboration idea, where you let people collaborate on their own terms and not on your terms, wouldn't that be nice if you could do that with your governance put across it? So having this portal and provisioning that enables you to do that is really one of the things we advise you to do. Either use the out-of-the-box LiveTile solution or find an alternative way to do it. Then as you have created your rooms and your people are in the right rooms and they receive the right information as consumers, how do you then make sure that your content creators have the ability to create content in the right way? So they don't have to create it first in your digital workplace and then afterwards in your MS Teams and then maybe a third place in your mobile app. So the whole idea here is to have common content creation. So make sure that your strategy evolves around have it stored in one place, have one creation process, but then distribute that information and content to the different clients wherever the users. So this is what we call unified content creation. And that goes across both news communication, but also like collaboration rooms when you create Teams rooms or employee mobile use. So be where the editors are and give them the same experience, whether they're in one client or the other client of these many different great clients that Microsoft has come out with in the Office 365 suite. So this, we call this the omnipresent digital workplace, or in my word, I just call it be present. Wherever your users, make sure that your relevant information that's personalized and targeted towards that user is present in that place where they are. So be there on the user's terms. As you have rolled out Microsoft Teams, this is more important that you then think about how do I then make sure that all my other stuff is also available in Teams, and I'll show you a way of that, at least a suggestion to that. And then, one of the things that are important as you let people embrace Teams is that you put governance around how they create Teams rooms. So in this case, what you're seeing here is basically that you can take this portal, find your Teams and collaboration portal room where you have all your different types of collaboration rooms, not just MS Teams, it could be SharePoint and other types as well. And then what you see here on this screen is that how we deliver a unified creating a collaboration room space from that portal with the right governance, with the right metadata, intuitively presented to the users as they create it. And if they create something that requires approval, now to think about it, automatically approval workflows, etc., gets kicked off. And once you've done that, make sure you present it in any of the clients they're in. Enough about that. So really, in summary, what I was trying to show some slides here is that think about the way that your users. You got to know your users. The information for targeting them has to be accurate because this is all happening across multiple different clients or apps is the right word. Make sure that you have a unified way of disseminating information and collaboration. Make sure that the users can collaborate in the tools whichever tool they like to work with or app they would like to work with. And then make sure that when you distribute content and create content, that it's done in a unified fashion. So those are sort of some of the main learning experiences that we've had as people have either because of need or because of this latest crisis put in rapidly solutions like Microsoft Teams to do online meetings like I'm doing right now with you. And then now afterwards, how to then make sure that we take those little bit dynamic is my word for implementing the dynamic way we rolled this out and then get it back into the real IT operation with the governance and everything that we are required to have both for regulatory reasons as well as our management. But I always joke and says talk is cheap, show me the beef. So let me just very quickly give you a run through of how we have thought out a way to deliver this and use this as inspiration. If you like what you see, Paul will talk about a lot of free tools that is available for you afterwards. But for now, let me just give you an idea of how this is done real life in a real software solution. So if you're looking here first, if I go to my homepage, I'm looking at my digital workplace. This looks like an intelligent intranet, but it's much more than that. I'll show you why that is in a minute. But I have my corporate news up here, pushed top down, targeted and personalized. I have my personal news feed. Like you could use this could be your Teams channels, when I use that word, where users are able to communicate to each other. Typically in the old world, intranet was like very much a top-down communication. With this crisis, we've seen that people need to collaborate a lot more peer-to-peer in teams, in small groups. And this communication channel we have here that spans across both Teams, which you will see over here, that I both have here in my Teams room and that I have in my digital workplace, actually enables users to communicate with each other in a governed fashion. So I'm only allowed to communicate with the channels, using the term I used before, that I'm allowed to communicate to. The reason why this is not just an intranet is because I have various different capabilities in addition to my news and collaboration. I have like alerts, if there's something going on. I have like people search. I can search on somebody, super easy. So I have like various tools for searching for people. I have like a little dashboard if I want to have like some key things that are cool branded. I have my workspaces here, and these workspaces can be just on the side here where I can look at them, or I can go to my collaboration portal here, and you'll notice that it's the same information that I'm serving up in both places. It's just present everywhere when I do it from this sidebar. We call that our power panel, a lot of times anywhere. So our solution for giving your digital workplace across all the tools. And this solution or module enables you to really communicate across your different clients. So as I showed you, I had some news here where you can see all my different, my corporate news, my local news, and my personal news feed. As I go to and you'll notice the different functions out here. As I go to my MS Teams, I have the exact same functions. So I have this ability to have a dashboard here. I have the ability to look at all my workspaces. I have the ability to do my people search and find my Shelly, like my favorite friend in life here. I have the ability to look at my news, like you saw before, the dog for sale that I did yesterday for a customer. That was kind of funny. And I have all this information wherever I am, be it in SharePoint or be it in my digital workplace or be it in MS Teams. So what this shows is that the first thing is here that, I have omnipresent, for lack of a better word. I have presence. I am where the users, regardless of whether they use the Teams room or regardless of whether they use the SharePoint site. So this is the first, and this can be done after the fact. Have you rolled out Teams already? We're able to enrich your experience with this power panel. We're able to enrich and recover, we call recover often Teams, into your collaboration portal. And then from there on, you can build the right governance process, and you can do it in a way that users actually find it pretty cool. Because the other thing that's important as you roll out a digital workplace, especially to the new, more digital native users of younger generations, is that it has to look cool. That's just the way it is. Otherwise, they think you're old-fashioned, and we don't want to do that. So, for example, putting in new information, I can add my newsfeed here. News. I can choose between different channels, like we talked about before, marketplace, and I can super cool. Let me just close this here. I can do next. I can put in like a new book. Put in a picture. Super easy and intuitive. I picked my book image and I hit create. Now I've just published a content of news. I've never left MS Teams. It looks pretty nice, and everything is the way it should be in terms of, like, I publish my news here, and when somebody opens it and looks at it, it doesn't look like this not so sexy MS Teams channel. It looks very nice with a nice picture and everything else. And I just sent a message to the channels I was allowed to communicate to, and I sent it to the channel called Marketplace. I actually don't know if I subscribe to the Marketplace over here. We'll see if I do that actually by going to my news. So bear with me here. Now this one is just not subscribing to that. Maybe I have it here somewhere. Marketplace. No, I don't have that. That's okay. It'll be here in a minute. Let me just get it refreshed here. you'll actually see that how I do this across all the different information channels. So basically, here you see now my marketplace is suddenly deployed also on my SharePoint. And you don't need to do anything as you build your collaboration solution around MS Teams. I've removed all the complexity of having to do it in multiple places. I removed the complexity of having to find your rooms. I removed the complexity of disseminating information to the clients where users are. The last thing I want to show, because I have about 5 minutes left, right, Paul? That's about what I can see.
Yeah, I think we're good, yeah.
Yeah, super duper. The last thing I want to show is that, because this is a collaboration audience. So what do we care about when we do collaboration? Well, we care about a few things. We care about whether we have rooms that looks right. So as I go and I look at my collaboration portal, I can see that I have like a SharePoint site here. I have an MS Teams site, etc. And as I open one of my rooms, and I will open that here, and of course I will do it in the web client because we're using this desktop client for my presentation now. As I open this room, I really like to know how I do this room so that I have the right tabs, I have the right navigation, I have the right documents. And you'll notice that this actually runs natively inside Teams. So as I close that, I still have my Teams room. What I want to do is that I want to make sure that my collaboration experience is transparent. So just like I showed you how it was super easy for a user to create a piece of information and communicate with a group in a collaborative fashion, I'll also show you now how you integrate and create collaboration spaces within MS Teams with all the right governance that you need with just a simple click, and that actually looks cool to users. So you see that up here I have my workspace. I can of course put filters in to help your users find different things. I can search across the rooms so I can find the right rooms. I can mark some of them as my favorite rooms so they're always present for me, also out here in my workspace area. But I can also provision a new room. So instead of you having to have users fill out a form and request a room and put on the metadata and everything else, I can just, why not just let the users do it themselves and then do it under governance? So you can create multiple different templates, different types like a SharePoint team site or an MS Teams room. And if this MS Teams room has external sharing, you can require that they get approved. But then I basically just fill in title, maybe a description. You have multiple different types of rooms, keywords if you want to search it or show it on the related pages. If it's a campaign launch, you'd like to show on that campaign page all the Teams rooms that has the same tag. You might want to do a date of audit. When is this checked? Whether it should be expired, whether it should be archived or not, which department, etc. And then next, you start adding your users, who's the moderator. I'm the moderator here. Who are the contributors? And then you just hit create. And if it's a room that needs approval, it goes to an approval workflow. Otherwise, it'll simply show up as one of my workspaces. And then I can instantly and right away go to my workspace module here and find my different rooms, the room we're in right now. So this is basically the way that we ensure, in summary, that if you have rolled out Teams and you have a lot of Teams rooms and you have a digital workplace and you might have information in 3 different places, we have a very powerful way of integrating all these using our Live Tiles Anywhere client that integrates all the digital workplace functions you use day in and day out in a personalized way. And we serve that up both in your SharePoint on-prem classic experience, modern experience, whatever version you use, or MS Teams. And we support all of that in a transparent way, like I just showed you. So I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it. I'm saying this gives you as an idea of how we think about an end-to-end digital workplace that has omnipresent and unified information, all present in one place, but on the user's terms. So we are wherever your users are, but you have the central control and governance, but to the users, it looks very dynamic and flexible. And I want to stress again, make sure it looks cool. Users like that. And I think this is actually a very cool way of doing it. I think with that, Paul, I just want to hand it over to you and maybe go to your last slide. Is that okay?
That's fine. If you keep control of the deck, Lars, if you wouldn't mind, just so it's.
Do you see my PowerPoint now?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So thanks very much for walking us through that whole enhancement, enrichment, and securing and recovering MS Teams. Really, really good for versatile demonstration. So thank you for that. So just as a way of a thank you for all of you who've joined us in the session today, and that have opted in for us to share some information and resources with you. We have quite a package that we'd love to share with you. First of all, we have a remote working ebook specially focused on as a support for IT departments on working from home. So it's all around setting up your digital workplace in the optimal way to support the working from home in your organization. And while it's designed specifically for IT departments, also great for communications departments to use as a way of really bringing that conversation together with your IT colleagues. We have a brochure on using MS Teams as a crisis communications platform. And we talked about our employee app during the presentation, which is really taking off over the last couple of months. And we are offering to everybody from attending this session of GalacticSummit a free 6-month extended trials for our employee communication mobile app. So really solving the problem of sharing information and targeting information with your employees, no matter where they are located, and instant deployment. This can be deployed in literally in minutes. So we also have complimentary remote working collaboration and communication healthcare check on the software side, of course. So any of our experts there are more than happy to check in with you and see what are the challenges you're facing and how you might need some support or some resources from our side. We have the MS Teams Accelerator Support Program as well, which includes our viral online virtual MS Teams game. We had originally designed this as a physical card game and quickly redesigned it as a virtual online game, and it's just it's really taken off. But it's also got a very important outcome-based function. While it's fun, you also get stuff done, and it really helps in terms of categorizing information and really setting your MS Teams up in a most efficient way tailored to your specific needs. So that's really a really great tool to have in your toolkit. We also have a video series. I've lost count of the number of videos we have on it now. It must be well over 30 short, concise pieces on hints and tips for driving adoption around MS Teams, and it's very user focused, so extremely consumable short pieces of content done through interesting videos that will allow your employees to really become power users of MS Teams, effortlessly power users. And finally, I'd really encourage you all to subscribe to our podcast. We've had the Microsoft Chief Storyteller as a recent guest. It's really, really taken off for us. I think we're on like 25 episodes right now. We'll have Sam Marshall from Clearbox coming up in a future edition. It's called the Intelligent Workplace Podcast, and you'll get it wherever you get your podcasts. So with that, I just want to thank you very much from my side, and from Lars as well, of course, for staying with us during this session. We hope you found it useful, and we hope that we get to meet you in person at the Collaboration Summit in Wiesbaden in October. So again, thank you very much, and over and out from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being a part of the Galactic Collaboration Summit. Join the community and meet in-person world-class Microsoft and MVP speakers this autumn in Wiesbaden, Frankfurt, Germany, with 15 full-day tutorials and over 150 Microsoft 365 and Azure sessions at the combined European Collaboration Summit and European Cloud Summit from 26 to 28 October 2020. Community rocks.